on this episode of the Sorority Chat podcast.
Well, it's a great time to be a woman in the history of the world, actually. We're becoming the wealthiest women ever in the history of the world. This is not just a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but it's a significant phenomena. With the transfer of wealth that is going on in our country, it is estimated by 2030, women are going to control about $35 trillion in the United States, which is pretty significant. And so the thing that we love about working with women's organizations, and we work with all organizations, but really empowering women to understand what that impact can look like through their philanthropic passions.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Sorority Chat. I'm Liz Toombs, a designer and sorority alum who's obsessed with all things Greek life. My mission? To bring you real conversations, smart insights, and fun stories that help make sorority living even better. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's chat. Welcome back to this week's episode of Sorority Chat. Joining me today, we have Kelly Taylor and Beth Bell, partners of Taylor Bell Consulting, joining me. Hello, ladies. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, it's great to see you and great to chat. I just want to jump right in. The last time that we were able to connect with each other, your firm had a different name. Now you have founded Taylor Bell Consulting. So I want to know the story behind it and what inspires you to focus on fundraising for sororities and nonprofit organizations.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Liz. So over 15 years ago, I co-founded what was then called Trek Advancement with a partner that I had met through a professional colleague from the University of Louisville. And we pretty much had the same approach and portfolio as we did then. I got into the Greek fundraising space because I had been a trustee for my sorority, Kappa Alpha Theta. And the executive director at the time had invited me to come speak while I was started my consulting practice to speak at a conference in Cabo in January. And I was like, absolutely, I will be there. And so that kind of naturally fell into this niche of fraternal women's foundations. And we've been working with them ever since. So April of last year, well, I should a flashback, 10 years ago, Beth joined us as a partner. And in April of last year, Beth and I bought out our business partner and renamed our firm Taylor Bell to reflect our 100% women-owned consulting business. So we're very excited about that.
I love it. I love the women-owned. Same over here. So congratulations. That's very exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
So your firm emphasizes innovative fundraising approaches. So let's talk about some examples of that, those strategies, and how they benefit your clients.
Absolutely. So our portfolio of clients is pretty diverse, which I think leads to innovation. We work with not only women's fraternal foundations, sorority foundations, but we also have clients all across the United States, including higher education, healthcare, land use, land advocacy, and community assets. So it really kind of lets us see what's going on in different subsets of the nonprofit industry across the country to kind of understand what things might look like in a certain region or particular state and how those trends might be impacting others. It's funny that, we talk about it being innovative, but really it's the tried and true practices of really understanding that it's all relationship management in the fundraising space and how you can bring innovative approaches to that relationship management work. And because we are a boutique firm and because we step in and partner right alongside our clients as they go through strategic planning or a comprehensive campaign or a capital campaign, we really get to know them and understand their unique challenges. And we roll up our sleeves and we're just as much a part of the team as anyone. And to be honest with you, that's innovative in the consulting space. Like we really dig in and help them understand how to navigate the path forward. And it's not always clear. And Beth can jump in. We bring the innovation by how we think about engaging donors in the idea of creation and what is it that the organization needs to prioritize in its funding. And I think we've seen a lot of really cool breakthroughs with our client. I don't know, Beth, how do we bring innovation? I feel like we're always innovating.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that our innovation is that we are that roll up our sleeves approach that Kelly was talking about. Like that is pretty unique in the consulting space. And unfortunately, we have to apologize for a lot of consultants along the way that we come in, behind, because, people aren't used to the granular level of detail that we get down to with our clients to make sure that they really are prioritizing the highest and best use sort of actions and strategies that they need to be, implementing. So I think that's definitely our differentiator between our competition out there in the world.
I love that boutique approach. It's very similar for me and my firm because we're small, we're nimble, you can pivot as needed and sort of just like you said, roll up your sleeves and get in there with the folks that you're working with to figure out what their solution is. And so I really appreciate hearing that from you all. And that's what I think I love so much about you guys and your firm is that you are that way. And I'm huge on building relationships. Like my entire business has been built on networking and building relationships with people. Yes. And I know enough about fundraising to be dangerous. And so I know how vital the relationship side is. And so I don't know, that's just something I kind of geek out over. So it's cool to hear you talk a little bit more about that.
Well, and just like we want our clients to have good relationships with their donors and to be always working on that relationship management, we want to have great relationships with our clients and we want them to value us as, as trusted partners. And we want to have, fun while we're doing all this work together because it is a lot of work and, but we're doing a lot of cool things and making a big difference. So we really enjoy, getting to know our clients and we spend years with them as part of their team.
Yeah, I know you become friends with them and they're, some of them almost become like family. Again, very similar to my business. You spend 2 and 3 years with these people and then it ends and I'm like, oh, I'm not talking to her every day anymore. What's going on?
No, it's sad. We send cards like the other day, we sent out cards for International Women's Day. Yeah. And just kind of reconnecting to a lot of these people that we used to spend so much time with. I mean, our campaigns can be 5, 6, 7 years. And I mean, you're on the Christmas card list, you're the holiday card list here, so
yeah. And I know y'all are based in Lexington, Kentucky, but you work with groups all over the country. So everything is I guess the world's your oyster, right? You can work with folks anywhere and you know how to help them.
Yes, absolutely.
North Dakota to California to Washington, D.C. We've done it all. Yeah.
I won't ask you which is your favorite place to be and to go visit, folks. I won't put you on the spot like that. So what unique challenges do you feel like women's organizations, sororities face in fundraising? And what are some ways that you can help them to overcome those challenges?
Well, it's a great time to be a woman in the history of the world, actually. We're becoming the wealthiest women ever in the history of the world. This is not just a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but it's a significant phenomenon. With the transfer of wealth that is going on in our country, it is estimated by 2030, women are going to control about $35 trillion in the United States, which is pretty significant. Yeah. And so the thing that we love about working with women's organizations, and we work with all organizations, but really empowering women to understand what that impact can look like through their philanthropic passions and connecting it. Liz, one of the things that we hold up as kind of one of our kind of visions, like what we want to do and impact on global is move the needle on the amount of money that is given every year in the United States to women and girls organizations. So right now, less than 2% of the money that is raised every year goes to support women and girls organizations. Wow. So that's astounding, right? Yeah. And, all of our women's fraternal foundations fall into what's called the Women and Girls Index. And so one of the things as a part of our business, not all of our business, but as a part of our business, we really want to empower our clients in that space to really move the needle, to capture a larger percentage of that wealth that is going to charitable organizations for women and girls specifically.
Yeah. I'm like really shocked by those numbers, and like my head's kind of reeling, and there's just a lot of thoughts and questions that come from that. I've always heard that men's organizations are really good at fundraising and the women's organizations are not. But then the women's organizations have other strengths. So do you agree with that?
No,
We flipped that script. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, say more.
Groups in the foundation, in the fraternal foundation space are going gangbusters in the fundraising space.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say the men's organizations are probably following the lead of the women's organizations in the opportunity to garner transformational support. Whereas a lot of women's organizations, many of whom we've worked with, are out on the forefront of really raising significant dollars to support not just like programs now, but also building that endowment, which is so critical to sustainability and relevance on the fraternity side. Women's groups are actually leading the way on that right now. Okay,
well, good to know. Yeah. I will know that now, and going forward in conversation, I won't say the other anymore.
That's right.
I think men's groups, like locally, maybe through housing, there have been like a big focus there, local chapter fundraising. But women's groups really have kind of understood that we're organizations worthy of support, and that the member development, the member experience, the empowering women through their collegiate experience is so critical to differentiate why someone would join, that they're really doubling down and investing as much as possible and raising money to do so. And it resonates.
Yeah, sure. What advice would you give to sororities looking to enhance their fundraising efforts? And are there any like common pitfalls that you could advise them to, and how they should avoid those?
Oh gosh, there's so many things happening right now in the fundraising space. That's kind of where the innovation comes in. I think a lot of the pitfalls are just not believing that we can do it. I mean, fundamentally, it's like, oh, we can never raise that. And then once we start having conversations and do a feasibility study and we show them the roadmap, they're like, oh, we can do that, you know, and I understand how we're going to get there and do that. Yeah, Beth, what do you think?
Well, I think some people are afraid. I mean, I think we learned during COVID that, you know, it was running to your donors instead of running away, you know, and saying like, oh, it's not a good time to ask. It's like, no, this is actually the exact right time for these women's groups to reach out and say, we need you. This support is critical. And so I think that like, always running towards your donors and saying like, this is what we're doing and this is what we need. I mean, I think that the more transparency, the better, and the more relationship building, like we were talking about earlier, the better for just during all these crazy times that we're in the middle of right now.
Yeah, I think that's a big pitfall. Yeah, retracting rather than running toward.
Right.
That's very interesting, because I was having a conversation yesterday with someone who was talking about, you know, maybe if we go into a recession, what does that look like? And people sort of clam up and they stop, you know, building the relationships like you talked about. So if we do go into a recession, how do you anticipate that will impact donors, their willingness to give? And then, you know, it sounds like one strategy is to continue to run to the donors, but are there other things that come to mind? And this isn't a scare tactic. It's just thinking now to prepare for possible worst case.
And we've been here before, right? Yeah. I mean, we've gone through recessions before. We've gone through economic uncertainty, and we know running to the donors is most important, not retracting. And, you know, Liz, the thing that we really like to focus on, especially in the women's group space, we, you know, do other capital and things like that, is really endowment building. And that's really where we go back to the now and the later. And what a lot of comprehensive campaigns look at, and you don't have comprehensive campaigns all the time. It's usually around big milestones like your 150th or, you know, big kind of milestones for the organization. And that's where it's all gifts count, and including deferred gifts. And so what we found, especially in women's philanthropy, is by doing what we call the blended ask. So you're asking for that annual support. We don't want to cannibalize the annual operations and programmatic support. Asking for a stretch gift, which is often to a priority area of the fraternity, sorority, or an endowment to support that. And then asking for a deferred gift, a revocable or irrevocable deferred gift. And those help people see beyond the 5 years or the 2 years or the 6 months and see the whole totality of their wealth and say, oh my gosh, if I can leave my fraternal foundation that would support in perpetuity my beloved sorority, if I can leave them $500,000, then I can do something now. So that is huge, is having that broader conversation, because even in good economic times, about 7% of people's wealth is cash and 93% are non-cash assets. And so by having a more global conversation about all their wealth and how they can unlock those pieces of wealth both now and later, that opens it all up. These are the things Beth and I love to talk about, because it unlocks capacity potential for so many people.
Yeah. I can tell, like, you're like getting very excited and very animated. Like, you can tell it lights you up.
Well, it's also like, it's transformational for the organization and for the donor. Like, a lot of times these gifts are the biggest gifts a donor will ever make when they make these deferred gifts. And it really, there are studies that show, because there are, studies about planned gifts and, really nerdy things like that Kelly and I like to look at. But there are studies that show that that when someone makes a deferred gift to your organization, they are more likely to increase their annual support to you, because they're like, I've recognized you as basically one of my children. And so I care about your success now and later, obviously. And so they even increase what they're giving now. So we love to talk about that. And we love to show our clients, like, just the extreme, success that they can have by looking at a global ask, like Kelly was talking about.
And there's a lot of assets in retirement right now that people 71 and a half can take qualified charitable distributions from. And that unlocks a pocket of money that a lot of people don't want to touch, because they otherwise have to pay income tax on it. So as more and more people hit that 70 and a half, I think I said 71, but 70 and a half, and it can utilize that asset. I mean, it's unlocking a lot of opportunity to give. And it doesn't impact your day-to-day discretionary spending.
And that's not stuff that just everybody's going to know all the time. So it's folks like you to educate the donors and then the people making the ask, like, hey, there's these options out there, because not everyone's keeping up with this side of things. There's so much to be watching in your finances right now.
Right. And so how does the organization at large market that? And then individually, as they're having solicitation conversations with donors, making sure that they're covering all the options and ways people can give in tax advantage ways.
So you talked about marketing the campaign or the opportunity to the donors. So how do you approach engaging alumni in fundraising efforts? Like, what are the best strategies for that?
Oh my gosh.
Do we have enough time to talk about it?
It's multi-layered. So in a campaign is a nice structured way to go about increasing dollars and increasing the number of donors. And the way you start in a campaign is, we always talk about top down. It's like a pyramid, top down, inside out. So in what we call the quiet phase, which is the first couple of years of a campaign, you're talking to the people that you've qualified in that kind of top tier pace setting donor, your board members, your council members, your leadership, to get everyone like 100%, participation, and then some really driving top tier gifts. So that when you get to the public phase, that's when you maybe launch at a convention or do a virtual launch to kind of say, look at how much we're going to raise. And we've already raised 70% of that, or whatever the number is. It's like backing a winning horse, right? To use a Kentucky analogy, it's like, then it becomes the all call. And then it is kind of the crescendoing of the marketing, right? And so then you've raised some money. so that you have proof of concept over the case for support and what you're asking people to do, but you have a bigger platform and megaphone, right? And so that it's kind of like you can't boil the ocean all at once, right? You have to start in that top down, inside out with those people that have been brought along previous to this campaign and that process. And then when you're in the public phase, you really crescendo out into that marketing and engagement. It's the all call at that point. It's like participation is the ask, make a gift, right? Sometimes it's make a gift, invite a sister to make a gift, right? That's kind of.
And when you've gotten to that, you know, to the public phase, like Kelly was saying, you've raised a significant majority of the money at that point. So then it becomes like success. You know, we were already in celebration. And so like that public phase ask is a lot easier. It's like, well, oh, I have to participate in this like life-changing, you know, transformational campaign for, you know, my organization. So it's a lot easier. People want to give to something that's successful already. And so it's a lot easier to make those kinds of asks at that phase.
That makes sense. Yeah. People are excited. They're getting the buy-in because it's just that energy is spreading and everybody's pretty pumped to support the campaign.
It's a tremendous point of pride, right? It's like collectively, and this is a big concept in women's philanthropy, is the collective, you know, and look at collectively what we can do. And with more people participating at all levels, like you could have a $10 million lead gift and a $10 participation gift, right? It's like, look at collectively what we can all do together. That's the message. Yeah. So that's how you engage alumni, but you can't do it all at once. It has to scale.
That's very true. And so going back to something you said earlier in the conversation, when you said people maybe believe, oh, we can't raise that kind of money, or we couldn't get so-and-so to get a gift. Is that typically what happens is they just believe the number is too big or the goal is too high and they don't know how to take the steps to get there? Or what makes them have that belief and that fear of trying?
Well, I mean, Kelly and I participate in, you know, helping clients with campaigns every day. And a lot of these people have never participated in a campaign effort where they have been the volunteer who is, you know, seen they need to go out and help raise the money. And so like we do this all the time and they don't do it that often. So I think that's there's just like a lack of, you know, experience and even sometimes confidence around it because it's like, well, I've never done that. Is that even possible? You know, so we come in with the data to say like, this is what is possible when we do like a campaign feasibility study. And then we help advise them along the way. We don't just like hand them a plan and say, okay, bye, good luck. You know, like that's what we were talking about earlier when we get in, you know, and roll up our sleeves because we're like, okay, now it's time to do the work. But we've shown them, you know, the data that says like that this is possible. And that really helps go a long way. And then, you know, thankfully we start seeing success a lot of times very quickly. And then that momentum keeps like pushing people forward and getting them even more excited.
It's like you have to do the homework. And then once you do the homework, you're like, oh, well, now that you put it that way, or I can see the roadmap to get there. And then that gives people confidence. And to be honest with you, like we know a lot about fundraising, but a lot of it's about change management. You know, like a group comes to you and they are aspiring to do something, but they're like, we don't know. We want to build a park. I mean, that's one of our big projects we've worked on. And, you know, well, how do we do that? Okay, well, let's put it together. It's, you know, how do we create those steps to making that happen? And then, you know, 10 years later, you've got a downtown park. You know, it's things like that. That's what we do is kind of say, you've got an idea and you're going to have to change and evolve. And there's the intellectual component of that. Like we've got to show them intellectually, but then the roll up the sleeves sometimes is the emotional part of that is like, let's go, let's work the plan, keep going. You're almost there. You're hitting your milestones. Like
the cheerleader along the way to coach them step by step.
Yeah. It's like a trainer almost sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and then they hit roadblocks along the way. Like, you know, there's like always obstacles in the way that they're like, oh gosh, we didn't see that coming. Like, what do we do now? You know, and then that's where we come in to help them, you know, kind of navigate a situation that helps them, you know, keep moving forward.
Yeah, that
like
makes
a pandemic.
Sense.
We just keep moving, figure it out,
right? Keep on going.
We kept going. We launched 3 campaigns during the like public phases of campaigns during the pandemic.
Wow, how did that go?
They all surpassed goal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So on the topic of success and wins, is there a particular project that you're really proud of or that was very successful or, you know, that you'd like to highlight?
It's like asking which one is your favorite child.
I know, it's so hard. I think I did tell Liz, well, Tuesday night, we just had a big point of pride. One of our clients in Louisville, Catholic Education Foundation, just launched their $100 million campaign, and they've raised 80 to date. So that's big.
That's very big.
Yeah.
So they announced their public phase, on Tuesday night, and that was pretty special.
Yeah. And that started in the pandemic. We started via Zoom in 2020, planning for that. And here they are at 80 million, with 20 million left in 2 more years.
That's a big number.
It is a huge number. It's kind of wild. And I think Kelly mentioned the park project, and that's one for me for sure. Gatton Park here in Lexington was an idea in our mayor's head, 10 plus years ago. And I mean, not to toot our own horn too much, but our firm really bootstrapped that project. I mean, there were times where it was on, just to use another metaphor, it was on life support, and we kind of pumped it back and got it back going. And now it's opening this fall. So like, that's pretty special. And their fundraising has surpassed, even what we told them in a feasibility study that they could raise. And they've raised endowment dollars to support the park ongoing. And I was speaking with their executive director recently, and she was saying, that timeline that we built, the timeline like Kelly's talking about, like we're only 6 months behind. Like we're going to hit it. And it was like, we built that timeline 5+ years ago, and they have hit all the milestones, and this park is opening. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that's a lot to be proud of, that things are on track and doing well. Like, congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. I think in the Greek space, our first big comprehensive campaign was Pi Beta Phi. And we helped their foundation raise $32 million, and their goal was 28.
Okay.
And they did that in 4 years, and it was around their 150th. So that was our first big effort in campaign in the Women's Fraternal Foundation space. Yeah. And at the time, it was the largest women's campaign. Now, several have surpassed them. Some of our other clients.
Is it ever like a game for you? Like how much can we exceed the goal, or how much can we beat, another, not that you would say that to the client, but like you in your mind, is it like a competition for yourself getting better?
To be honest, not really, because it's all relative to what they can do. We try to individualialize it, because they're all the women, especially in the Women's Fraternal Foundation space, it's not apples to apples. Some are kiwis, bananas, coconuts. So you can't compare. So it's kind of relative to where they stand, right? And what success looks like for one is different for another one. But we're not in the business of not hitting goals. So that's kind of, I think, what I
would say the only competitive driver is just like trying to help them even surpass their own goal. Like we really would like, we would like them to go past their goal. Like, and we've done that traditionally, which has been great.
Yeah, I think that is great. How do you see fundraising evolving over the next few years, specifically as it relates to Greek organizations? Is there anything that stands out to you?
Wow, the generational differences are significant in everything, and fundraising is no exception. We, whereas like silent and boomer generation, very loyal.
Yeah.
Xers, millennials have to come up and be that, kind of pass the philanthropic mantle from that generation. What does that look like from the loyal support, the sustaining support? That's why we're focused a lot of on endowment building, so that there are those resources for sustainability. I think we're truly trying to understand Gen Z, Gen Alpha, how to start educating collegiate members now about the importance of supporting their fraternal foundation in the future, and supporting women and what that looks like, in addition to our philanthropic priorities that are in our communities and are nationally. But I think that that's a challenge, right? And it's a generational, just like how we're baked in, right? And how we approach things. And what that's going to mean for operational cost and things like that. So it is definitely something that we talk a lot about. And I think we're getting more information about that and how we can position our clients to really educate and engage that next generation of donors. But it really is generational differences and just perspectives on giving.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been watching, as I'm guessing you are too, the Amplify Sorority research and just about the generation, because I want to know, what they're wanting within their spaces, and you're trying to understand, their giving and all of that. And it's just fascinating. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, we're donors to that project from the get-go because we knew that this was so fundamental to the case for support, and it's bearing out that way. So as the research is coming back, it really is underscoring the case for support for our fraternal foundations, just from like impact on mental health, connection, and well-being, what the women are looking for from a member experience right now. That's that personal growth, professional development, all those things, academic, success. So it really is kind of like validating what we knew to be true. Maybe some of those intangible things, like the secret sauce of sorority is our connection and belonging, and our ability to have those safe spaces in a sisterhood that is supportive and allows you to build that confidence of leadership and things like that. And so, we love the research because it is pointing in the direction that we thought. But we also have to understand, like, there's a little bit more of a transactional feel in those generations, and not just saying, okay, that was something I did for 4 years. It's something that I do for my lifetime, and I continue to give back and support or pay forward or however you look at it. And how do we build that in as something that's not just another club that they do, right? But it's foundational to the rest of their life. It could be foundational to the rest of their life.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think it'll be interesting to see how it evolves and what more information we can get there.
That's
well,
great.
Kelly and Beth, this was such a great conversation. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your wisdom around fundraising. If people would like to connect more with you, how can they do that?
They can visit our website, TaylorBellConsulting.com, and has our contact information in there. And they can also just reach out on our LinkedIn. We're trying to do a better job in populating and following up on LinkedIn because we feel that's probably the best space for us to connect with prospective clients.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Do you do any of the other socials from the business standpoint, like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok?
We don't do TikTok. Oh gosh, I can't. I mean, it's too much. Here's the thing. So yes and no. I think LinkedIn is where we decided we would kind of focus because, we go speak at a lot of conferences, and that's where naturally people would go and try to connect with us and things. Now we have had clients say, oh, I went and looked at some of your things on Instagram, but so much of our story to tell that it's not visual.
Sure.
It's more in our thought leadership and white papers or things like that we may be doing, or, educational programming we may be doing. So I think right now we're constantly debating that, I don't know.
I understand. There's always things pulling you in multiple directions, regardless.
As a small business owner, you have to prioritize, right? As you know.
You do. Yeah. You do. That's correct. But I'll make sure we have all of your website, the LinkedIn, all in the show notes so that people can contact you if they are interested. And thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
That was fun.
Welcome to Liz's House Hot Takes. This is where I take the lessons I've learned over the last 16 years of designing Greek houses and offer you my pro tip. Here's today's house hot take. Your front door sets the tone. Before anyone even steps inside, they're already forming opinions. So don't ignore the front door. Paint it in your organization's signature color, upgrade the hardware, and add planters with seasonal flowers on the front porch. Curb appeal isn't just for real estate, it's also for recruitment. Thanks for listening to another House Hot Take. For more inspiration, check out the PDR Interiors Instagram or TikTok. I'm Liz Toombs, and this is the Sorority Chat podcast. Catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you got something out of today's conversation, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out this video right here or this one over here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. On that note, I'm Liz Toombs with Sorority Chat, and I'll see you on the next one. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry for Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Liz Toombs.